You remember McCoy asking Spock what death was like when they brought him back after Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock?
I think so.
During the voyage home, he asks him what death was like, and he says he's incapable of formulating a response because they have no common reference point. And McCoy says, "You mean I have to die in order to talk to you about death?" And Spock basically agreed. Now, frankly, I don't even know if I've been in love. So I don't even know I've got a common reference point to talk about love. The last time I thought I was in love with someone, I was pussy whipped like you wouldn't believe. Okay? I hated her parents. I hated her stepfather. You know what they would do? This is what they would do. Whenever there was a dispute about the meaning of a word at the dinner table, where they ate like low-cal vegetarian food most of the time, they would actually pull out like their Webster's dictionary, and we would find out who was right and who was wrong. Now, much as I early on enjoyed this, when it comes to love, how much love does it show when this girl not only gets upset at this sort of behavior from me and from her parents, but like ultimately she is completely unsatisfied with my own behavior in many things. Okay? I mean, I think you have to accept people for who they are if you're going to love them. Otherwise, forget it. You know, I went through 2 years of molding with this crazy woman, alright? I lost 20 pounds. I did all kinds of things, alright? And the fact is, I finally met something which I thought was impossible, an insatiable woman. And not in sex. In terms of, she wanted some sort of absolute in love, which doesn't physically exist. So she would basically take whichever guy found an interest in her and try and mold them as best she could. And for her, this was some kind of self-reference point, alright? In the sense that every development in her life, the boys she was dating at the time served as references in her personal history. So consequently, when she was going out with a guitarist, she took up guitar. When she met me, she convinced me to go snowboarding a couple times, and I started taking up snowboarding. It's like ridiculous. And then when she tried to explain herself, she would refer, probably as I'm doing with this silly woman, she would refer to the guys she was going out with when she made this like leap of hers. Love is an illusion for the purposes of procreation, many would say. I mean, how can you possibly stand someone for 25 years of your life? Or more? My best friends, I get sick of them after seeing them for 3 days in a row. You know, and I love them to pieces. You know, if you could only like love someone and keep separate apartments, I think things would work out just fine. You know, have like private lives as well. But the Western notion of love really developed out of the Renaissance and the idea of romantic love. Actually, what the Middle Ages would be more precise, where you had the mythologies of Charlemagne and King Arthur and Lady Guinevere and all that romantic love entanglements. And it's fooled people. I mean, even love as a word probably has some, you know, fairly recent etymological root, just like the root of all evil, which is a close associate. But when it comes to wishing about love, I wish love really did exist. I wish love could happen to a person. I wish somewhere, somehow, some cute girl watches this and says, this is a guy I'd like to fall in love with, and makes a play for me. Because, you know, at this point, this is my ultimate version of love. It's abstract, it's portable, it doesn't speak. and I can throw it away and make another one anytime I want. I'm in complete control. And you know what? That's what a lot of people seek in love. Some measure of control. And I mean, they may not admit it, but as you get older, what do you want? You want stability. You want recurrence. You don't want change. Change becomes the enemy the older you get. So how can you want change in love? How? You want stability. And the only things that remain stable are things which we exert a measure of control over. In fact, love has so many superficial intangibles surrounding it that you can never really nail it down. For instance, if I look at a girl and I think to myself, I'm going to get bored with looking at her face in 15 minutes or a year, somewhere in that range, I won't even ask her out. I won't even go up and talk to her. I won't. You know why? Because I don't want to be waking up and brushing my teeth next to someone whose physical appearance I despise. Now, she doesn't have to be Elle McPherson. She doesn't have to be Tia Leone. But she does have to have a basic symmetry to her face. Cheers, yes. And there was even probably some TLC special on that, how people find symmetry attractive. But really, if you're going to have a face that you're going to get bored of, tired of, then everything behind that face ultimately kind of seeps in like that CLR cleaner they use on tile surfaces. It just becomes boring through and through. And you know what? I'd rather not be celibate. Sex is an important thing about love. In fact, there's 3 things that psychologists believe you need for love. You need physical intimacy, you need emotional intimacy, and you need intellectual compatibility. Now, I've probably screwed that up, but I know it was 3 things. Because without sexual compatibility, you're not going to enjoy sex, and that's going to destroy the relationship. Without physical intimacy, in the sense that you share each other's secrets and desires and wishes, sorry, that's emotional intimacy. You're going to have what people refer to as a superficial fling. And if you don't have intellectual intimacy, common goals, ultimately what you're going to have is a short-term relationship. And despite all of what I've just said, people seem to be falling in love all over the place. They seem to be having kids. I know many friends and friends of mine, they're having kids right now in situations where I never expected them to have kids in the first place. And clearly, if that's not love, they think it is. And maybe that's really enough. However, when you think about it, I mean, I'm sure whoever's watching this has divorced parents, some of them, possibly most of them. In fact, I was an anomaly when I was growing up because my parents were still together. Well, they've since split up. And you know what? Since they split up, I've realized that nothing really does last forever. If 2 people who met each other, you know, between the ages of 17 and 19 and had a marriage spanning nearly 25 years can't work it out. If 2 people so close in environment, in intellect, and physical compatibility can't work things out, what does that say for people like me, who, you know, I don't have a common cultural background with a lot of people that I've grown up with. And even though I've grown up in a foreign country, and I've got that balance of home life being the life of an immigrant, and being, to all respects, a wasp. I mean, let's face it, do I look Turkish to you? You know, where's there room for me in this whole love equation? One girl, she said something really smart. She told me I talk too much. You know, seduction has more to do with doing things and being things and leaving the yammer for the excuses why you can't stay over and how you can't stay for breakfast, all those things. It's not for the lovemaking. It's not for the love. And when it comes to love, just one final idea. Books and being immersed in fiction spared me from a lot of emotional trauma when I was growing up. It's only when I started to act out things and stopped reading books on a regular basis that I got myself into trouble with love. Finally, if some attractive, cute girl decides that a freak like me is worth exploring, or a reasonable facsimile of me which you might already know, give us a chance. We have a lot to offer. Like William Macy said, we've got a lot of love to give. If you can tolerate the sarcasm and the occasional bitterness and the guilt at past misdeeds, you'll find we're warm human beings. So, in closing, I'd just like to say, love is about clues and finding your own answers. So, if this has given you any clues as to what love means, then by all means, seize it, run outside, find the first cute girl you meet, and chat her up. Because that's the only way you'll get things started.